we're going to be installing the cheapest stereo on Amazon that I can find. So this is the cheapest one I could find, and this is about 25 bucks. I'll link down in the description below if you want to check it out yourself. But this one's called the AboutBit, pretty much a CA10 Bluetooth stereo. It's also got an aux input. It's got a USB so you can use your phone too. It's even got an SD card slot in there so you can listen from your SD card. So let's go ahead and get this baby unboxed and see what it's all about. And just to mention, I'm not sponsored by Amazon. I actually bought this with my own money. So, and I'm just doing a review on it. So I can do this. Oh, what's this? Okay, so these are the tool removals for the stereo, or probably mounting brackets, I think. Let's see what else is in here. Carefully do it with one hand. If not, I'm just gonna get the whole thing out real quickly. So I took the whole thing out and I set the box aside. And as you can see, we got the little owner's manual in here, or on the instructions. We got two harnesses, one for powers, the other one for speakers, which is these are the speakers and this is the power. It's even got a remote control. That's pretty much it in here. And here's the actual beast itself. Unbox this. Wow, this is actually it's not that bad. It's pretty good in size. It looks like a high quality stereo. Kind of reminds me of one of those Boss stereos. So as you can see, we got the little harness connector in the back. We got a 10 amp fuse in there. We got some RCA outputs so that you can connect some subwoofers. Antenna, which is up here. RCA with stereo connectors. Alright, now let's go ahead and open up this to see what we get in here. Alright, so here's the remote I was talking about. This is to change the tracks. Select a track, I think, volume up, volume down here. It's not bad. It's got looks like a high quality remote, but I'm probably not even going to use it. But here are the important things. The main wires for the stereo itself. So these are the wires that connect it. These three, this is just the antenna or power remote for your subwoofer or amplifier. So these, the yellow one is the 12 volts constant, I think. The red one is, no. Yeah, I think the red one is the 12 constants, and one of these are the 12 constants, and the other one is probably a ignition on switch. So this black one is the ground. And as you can see, we got 4 wires. Not 4, we got like 8 wires in here, I think. 8 wires, so 2 of them, the 2 gray ones are your left front, I think, or right front, and the white ones are your left front. Green ones are your rear right, and purple are your rear left. And that's pretty much it for this unboxing. So let's go ahead and get this beast in my car. So, and the reason I got this is because, well, I actually needed a new stereo because my stereo is starting to make like a lot of crackling noise to my speakers. I checked all the speakers, I even replaced them, and they're still making the same noise. So now I just came down that it's the head unit. So let's just go ahead and install this one, and let's do this. Alright, so once again, we're going to be installing this stereo in there. Now you can see I already have an aftermarket stereo, but as I just mentioned, this stereo is causing my front speakers to make like a cracking sound. And these front speakers are brand new, I just got them. So, this is a $20 stereo that I got from Walmart, and well, as I can say right now, I got it last month, and it didn't even last a single month. So we're going to be taking this out, so we're just going to use a flathead screwdriver. It's not really in there good, so all we really need to do is just take it out like that. And this should just pop off like that. And there it goes. So as you can see, this stereo. Now I did a temporary fix so it won't make my speakers crack. All I did is I tied up all the negatives together, all the positives, and there was 4 of them. And I grabbed the left front speaker wire and the right front speaker wire and plugged it into all of those wires so that way it can make all the speakers work. Now that's just a temporary fix. I've only done that for 1 day already and it started making cracking noises again. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug this. And here's the antenna, which I really hope it fits this stereo. And over here, as I'm going to show you, when I got this car, now don't make fun of me, but when I got this car, you can see it right here. You might be thinking that I snapped off these wires. Well, I did not do this because when I got this car, all these wires were snapped off with I think it was a JVC stereo, which didn't even work at all. And the owner that put in that stereo snapped off all of the factory connector. He just snipped it off, and it just leads me to this right here. So what I mean is that this is all I did. I connected all the negatives together, put a negative there, and all the positives, and put a speaker wire positive. And that's what I got, and started making cracking noises again. Now I'm going to be cutting these wires again so I can fit the new stereo in. But before I go cutting all the wires, I'm going to be disconnecting the negative terminal battery so we don't cause this short, or so we don't blow a fuse. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect the negative terminal. So I'm just going to be using a ratcheting wrench for this. Just unplug the negative terminal. I'm going to loosen up that little screw. And this screw's on there tight. Why is it on there tight? There we go. And then we can just unplug the negative terminal. I'm just going to wiggle it a little bit. And there we go. And now, so it doesn't touch the terminal, I'm going to set it down there so that's out of the way. And now we can get started on snipping those wires. Alright, so now we're going to cut the wires here. But before that, when you're cutting wires, you want to cut one by one. Even though we already disconnected the negative terminal, it's still possible to cause a fuse to blow. But we're going to disconnect one wire one by one. We're going to cut it with these little wire cutters. And all we're going to do is get back here and start snipping off wires. So I'm going to do that real quick and I'll be right back. Alright, so now that I got all of the wires cut, now I'm going to remove this entire panel right here. So I already took off the little piece that goes to right there. Usually there's a side airbag, I think, there. So just put your hand here and pull it out just like that. And now there's going to be a connector beside here. So all you want to do is you want to pop that connector off. See if I can do this with one hand. If not, I'll try with my other one. Just pop this little connector off. There we go. Pop that off. And now we can move this out of the way. And then we're going to disconnect all of these right here. So just unplug one by one. And then we're going to remove 4 screws that come on the side. So I'm going to unplug this and then I'll get back to you to show you how to remove those screws. Alright, so here we got this little thing removed. And as you can see, there's 4 screws. There's 2 over here. This was like, oh crap, this was like that. There's 2 screws there. And then there's 2 other screws down here. And those screws mount up to there, there, and there. Alright, now let's get back onto wiring this stereo. Alright, so to wire up the stereo, as you can see here, we got the 2 connectors. As you can see, 2 connectors. So the colored ones, let me grab one of the connectors. These are the speakers. Right here, these are the speakers. And these are the power-ons. Now all I did is I took the red and the yellow and I connected it to the battery just to make sure the stereo is working. And I checked it all out. Stereo is working. So all I did is I twisted these 2 together and then I put it to the positive. And then I did is put this to the negative, and it made the stereo turn on. So now before you go wiring up your stereo, you're going to need a diagram, because you can't just go input wire to wire and you're not going to know which wires go to which. So I have a diagram on my phone, And you can look this up online as well. So you just gotta look up your make and model on Google or something. Just Google search. For example, this is a 2001 Honda Odyssey. I Google searched that, and it showed me all the wire color codes, and so that I can get these wires matching with the correct wires for each speakers and for the power on wires. So now I'm gonna go ahead and wire up some of the wires, and to wire those up, I'm gonna be using little terminals right here. I'm gonna be using these and these right here. These other ones are not really necessary, but I'm just gonna be using these and these so I can splice them together and so we can get a good connection. You could also use electrical tape if you don't have any of these terminals. It's fine with electrical tape. Alright, so here's a quick power test on. So as you can see, all I did is connect the power wires to the correct wires. And now we're going to do a quickly power test to make sure the stereo is working. Now I already did this, and we're going to try it again just to be extra sure. And would you look at that? The stereo is working fine, but right now we can't really test the speakers because I still have a connector out. But the stereo looks like it's working good. Got EQ on it, it's got mute, you can even turn it off and on, Bluetooth, auxiliary, radio mode, and there's USB 2, but you have to have your USB in order for it to work. But you can see the stereo is working pretty fine now, so let's just shut the key off, and we're gonna make sure the stereo turns off. Good, stereo turns off. And now we're gonna finish off by connecting these wires. So I'm gonna go ahead and connect those wires, and then we're gonna test the radio and make sure it's working. So every wire has been installed into the wires. So now we're gonna power it on and make sure there's sound. Alright, so as you can see, we got volume, we got Bluetooth. If we click here, we can go to different settings. For example, we got aux, radio. We're gonna try radio. Oh, you hear that? Coming from that speaker and over here as well. And I can hear the rear speakers too making noise. That's good. That's a good sign.
No restrictions, but the country's healthcare system is near collapse and vaccines are still scarce.
Well, it looks like this head unit's working perfectly fine. So let's just get this mounted up into the little bracket right there and install it, and we'll get the job done finished. So let's go ahead and install it into the bracket. So I put everything back together. Everything's working fine. I tested out the stereo with my own Bluetooth music. The Bluetooth works fine. I just tested it out with an aux cord. As you can see, I'm already on the aux input. I tested it out with this aux cord I had laying around, and it worked fine as well. The only thing I haven't tested it out on is the USB. Now I'm gonna test it out another day, but this is pretty much it. The review on the About Fit stereo. I believe it was the CA10 Bluetooth. You see right there, CA10 BT, which means Bluetooth. And well, it's a pretty decent stereo after all. I thought it was gonna be like a cheap, non-made, like really dumb stereo, but well, not dumb, but really old. Pretty much like a stereo that has no bass at all. But this stereo really has good bass. Like, I'm not even kidding. This stereo has real good bass. You even got yourself a bass equalizer. You got treble. You got your balance, your fade, loud, and your equalizer. I set mine to rock because on rock it gives you actually a lot more bass. And well, that's pretty much how this stereo goes. The stereo's not bad after all. And well, everything's back together though. And one last thing, I'm going to test out the remote to see if it works. So power on. It actually works. Alright, now let's try. Or you can even set your equalizer on this. Mode. This is not a bad stereo after all. Well, that's it, guys. That's the review for the CA10BT stereo on Amazon. I'll link this down in the description below if you want to find it for yourself, and so you can get it. It's really cheap. It's only 25 bucks. And this shipping was actually really fast too, only 2-day shipping. Well, that's because I have Prime, but if you don't have Prime, it'll come in like in 3 days, but that's pretty good enough for me too. But please like the video if the video was enjoyable. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.